Well, it's quite a unique area, really, and I've been to quite a few rainforested areas in the world, and I've never seen the abundance and density of wildlife that I've seen here in the peninsula. And that is quite unique, I think. I don't think there are any areas of rainforested areas of the world that quite match here for the sheer abundance of wildlife.
The first time that I went to the Osa was in 2002. The first place I visited was the Luna Lodge, and the first person I met was Lana.
I really built this lodge to share because I wanted to show the people the importance of nature.
I fell in love with the place. I fell in love with the idea of protecting such a magical place and making sure that other generations can be able to actually feel the same things that I felt when I first got there. Later on, I started studying the actual richness of its biodiversity and other spectacular and magnificent characteristics. Once you start to understand all those facts, you realize that it's a unique place in this earth and that you need to protect it and keep loving it forever.
Why this place is so important. So many people, like National Geographic says that it's the most intense biological place left on this earth. 50% of all the living things in this world at the moment are in a belt that's 10 degrees above the equator and 10 degrees below the equator. Costa Rica is in that belt. 5% of all the biodiversity in the world is in Costa Rica, and 2.5% is here in Corcovado. That's why it's one of the most important things to preserve.
The rainforest is the most important ecosystem in the world that has the highest biodiversity. And unfortunately, many rainforests have been destroyed all over the world. In Asia, South America, Central America, Africa. I really want to work to protect the Osa Peninsula because there is very few places like this one still left.
Costa Rica is, as we know, right in the middle of, on this tiny little piece of land, the bridge between North and South America. And so a lot of the animals, they migrate seasonally between North and South America, and so it's really important for us to protect migration corridors that exist in certain critical parts of Costa Rica. And as it is, as 70% of the biologists in North America have been confirming and saying that if we keep going at the current pace of extinction of our plants and animal species, 50% of all existing species will be lost within the next 100 years.
It's easy to understand why the Osa is so important. If you come to this area, you can find a lot of wildlife in such a small place, and you can find endangered species like spider monkeys, scarlet macaws, jaguars, tapirs, and this is a really small but beautiful area. But I don't know why people do not understand why to preserve the biological corridors are so important. If we know that now some populations are in critical danger of extinction.
It's very important to save this area because so many other places had been taken over by many large buildings, and animals need to have a safe place where they can eat and sleep and drink and live in a peaceful environment.
This is where the animals and the insects live. We're the visitors here.
There's so many pieces of life in nature, and you have to protect those things.
I think it's the same way you can describe saving one of the lungs in your body. It's basically one of the lungs for the earth. It's the way the earth breathes, and it keeps biodiversity flowing. It is absolutely a key area in the global warming situation. That area of the size of Long Island can cool, a big percentage of the continent.
There's no other place left in the world like this, the Peninsula de Osa. And it's our responsibility to protect this area because the animals can't do it. If you go ahead and walk on this beach, you can walk literally for 2.5 days on this beach. It's the longest stretch of lowland tropical rainforest left in the world. There's nowhere else that you can walk for 2.5 days and not see a physical structure on the beach line.
The government of Costa Rica, it did a great thing by creating the national parks, but really because of limited resources, they haven't been able to pay for a lot of the lands that they already took. And so there are still some very critical migration paths around the Corcovado National Park and lands that are up for sale right now. And these lands, if they are not purchased and put into conservation very soon, it will bring a lot of development into the area, and these migration corridors will be lost forever. And this really being a much more critical area among all of the rainforests in the world. So at this point, it is very necessary that private sources that can afford to assist the White Hawk Project and provide some donations through a nonprofit that is available. It can allow, for a relatively small amount of money, some critical corridors can be purchased and put into conservation so that these migration corridors can be protected.
Honestly, we have a jewel there, and what I have learned through time is the jewel we have there, we must do any effort possible to make conservation possible in that area, not only in the park, but in the whole area.
Well, the threats now seem to be mainly from the encroachment of resort tourism. You know, these high-rise resort hotels that come along with golf courses and that sort of thing. Up until now, this peninsula has really been a destination for eco-tourists who come to eco-lodges here that are very much in keeping with the environment and don't intrude upon it at all. Whereas these resort hotels just come in and basically destroy everything.
Because of the characteristics of the area and its beauty, if we don't do these private conservation efforts, we can see as a threat a mega project, for instance, like a Cancun hotel. That's a major threat. That precisely is what prevents biological connectivity.
Do the conservation of those territories is absolutely necessary, because otherwise we disconnect the species in one side to the species in the mainland and to the species moving around the Central American areas. If we don't have that connected in protected areas, it would be very dangerous to what in the future could happen in the park. That kind of effort it's monumental.
I mean, it is important how to keep it, how to preserve, how to protect it, because we need all this area for the monkeys, for the mammals, for the cats to go back and forth.
The importance of corridors really is to stop fragmentation of habitats and fragmentation of populations. You know, it's good to have that genetic mixing from different populations. Otherwise, if a population of animals or even plants becomes too isolated and there's not that genetic diversity input to it, they'll eventually snuff out.
You cannot isolate a place and pretend for the species to be there forever. They need to expand. We all need to move.
My farm is up high, but everything from my farm all the way to the beach is for sale. There's over 12 different farms, and they're all for sale, and most of them are owned by gold miners. And the most important thing for me in this project, White Hawk Project, is number one, to have it protected forever for the animals. Number two, there will never be any type of development, maybe trails and maybe a research center. And number three, if the gold miner would like to continue to live there until he passes away, he is totally welcome to live there. And just like Hugo, my friend, he has pretty much protected it for 35 years. So I want him to continue to live there, but also want to repay him for everything that he has protected for all this time. So we're just trying to extend this whole corridor to go all the way to the end to Matapalo. It's so important for the animals because the park isn't big enough. Like the jaguars, for example, if they don't have more area to roam, then they're going to be interbreeding, and it's just going to be terrible. We need to expand the area that's protected for them to be able to roam, all the animals that are here on the Osa.
I really feel that it is humanity's job as parents, as stewards of the planet and the environment, for us to love the species and to maintain and to really send the message energetically and spiritually, and of course through our actions in the physical world, that these species are loved and desired, and as the stewards of the planet, we need to do what we need to do, whatever it takes to protect these species and to stop the extinction of species and to maintain the incredible diversity of life that we have on the planet.
I personally have a very fulfilling job. I mean, it's my job to show off this peninsula to people, you know, and the peninsula does it really, you know, I just have to take them there, you know. And for me personally, I mean, the satisfaction and joy I get out of doing that is immense, you know, and not to have that here, and to see the populations of animals decline, and, you know, the beauty and charm of this peninsula disappear, would, personally, I find it heartbreaking, you know.
It's an effort that we probably are going to consider vital for the Ose Peninsula, for Costa Rica, for Central America, for Latin America, for America, and for the planet. I just invite everybody to be involved and to believe that this is not an isolated area, but is part of the planet and is a very important part of the planet.